So we've been applying to CASF grants, California Advanced Services grants, and that program is set to expire in 2022. So there are two bills in the current legislative cycle, SB4 and AB14, which are which necessarily need to extend that fund, or our projects won't have the funding. So Supervisor Williams is a member of the North Bay North Coast Broadband Consortium Oversight Committee, and that organization has already sent a letter to the authors of those two bills, Senator Lena Gonzalez and Assembly Member Cecilia Aguilar Curry, and asking them to include certain things within their bills. And so that organization recommends that the speed of 25 megabits up and down symmetrically should be the floor and not the ceiling for written into their bills. And ideally, we should strive for 100 over 100. They also feel that the 25.3 are inadequate, and these bills should raise those speeds. And also, households or locations that do not have 25 over 25 should be defined as unserved. These two bills, the job number one should be extending the CASF funds so that grants can continue build up. And there should be clarification in the bills as to how much money is going to be secured. More or less, the process of the funds are based on a fee attached to phone bills, and so depending on what percent is, we might have a larger or smaller pool of funds in the CASF grants. So we want the authors of the bills to work out exactly what the details that derive the amount of money that will be in CASF. And the group also thinks that the CASF funds should be permitted to secure bonds. Also, CASF funds should be able to match federal dollars for infrastructure improvement. Currently, as Tom described earlier, the CASF funds interfere, or rather the RDOF funds interfere with CASF projects. So if you'd like to clean that up a little and add what I haven't, Tom, go right ahead.
I think that represents our presentation.
Perfect timing.
Thanks all. I have been unable to monitor.
I'm doing the chat room. We're good.
Okay.
Do we have any time while we have Tom for Q&A? I don't know if there are comments or questions.
I think now would be a good time to give comments and questions.
You're muted, Jim. You're muted.
I could hear myself perfectly. Tom, I would suggest when you introduce yourself to the board that you do a similar thumbnail sketch of your background. I know your background well. You have a very impressive technical and telecommunications networking background, and not everybody that's in that boardroom is going to know much about who you are or where you come from. So I think that would be good. Other than that, I thought your presentation was pretty much right on point.
Yeah, I thought the same. It's the right content. It moves quickly. It's the right duration. I think it would be good to reiterate that there aren't any creative solutions here. This is a money problem. And we get pushback about let's wait for grants, or no, this is what it costs. And they're, doing it purely wireless, maybe less. And there's other obstacles with that. It won't cover everyone due to terrain, and, community will be against it, and we can't really control the deployment rate. The projects, the 3 projects that were scoped out, if funded, would provide coverage to entire communities, but this is the cost. And has anybody reached out to Assemblymember Wood to make sure he'll be available to watch the presentation?
I have not, but I will do that.
Okay.
This is Emily Tecchio from Assemblymember Jim Wood's office.
Hey, Emily.
Hi.
Hey, yeah, I can definitely make sure that he sees this presentation.
Wonderful.
Tom,
may I
could you clarify, could any one of those projects be done independent of the other two?
The project one is sort of the Kickstarter, but yes, the other two, there would be some modest changes that would have to be made because everything the main hub is back in Ukiah, and that's part of project one. So if we did project 2 versus 1, we would have to provide for some replacement to that Ukiah hub as an example. I would like to make a comment that from a staff perspective, Jeff and I and others are working on what I call a campaign for making our case, because we need to be prepared if somebody says no. We need to scream from high heaven that this is, as Supervisor pointed out, this is the cost, get with it. You need to do it. Mendocino is just one example. There are others to follow. So we're working, the material that was presented today on education, I think is very revealing. We're working extensively now with the tribes because there's a lot of emphasis on tribal support, both at the federal and state level. And we also want to, have a statement with regard to how it relates to MOVE and any other special group needs, so that people understand that the Mendocino County people understand what they need and what they're not getting. And with that, push hard for approval. So we're working on, I'll call this little case case statement.
Thank you, Tom. Any other questions or comments?
I have one.
Go ahead, Katie.
Tom, how does this relate, this Rural Digital Opportunity Fund relate? Because those people are not going to put in cable, any of them, right? I mean, it seems like they're a stopgap measure. Is that it? But people are going to say, oh, but we've solved your problem.
The last statement is correct. They're going to say, we solved your problem. And the fact of the matter is, they're not. And, I'm trying to be very even-handed with this. We've been meeting with Etheric Networks, which is a California-based outfit, as an example, and I probably maybe should hold my fire here a little bit. They have 37 employees. They have 300,000 customers, and they won bids in 25 counties.
Wow.
So in conversations with them, we've told them that, well, I think they're very technically capable. They're very clever folks. They have the capacity to do what we need? Secondly, Mendocino County in their sequence of doing anything doesn't happen until 2026. And thirdly, they don't have enough money to do the job. And that seems to be the case with the others as well. Now, SpaceX is a different animal. As you know, they've already launched, and a lot of people in Mendocino and Sonoma County are pretty excited about it. But it is not the end solution. It is one of those things that are extremely valuable and a good supplement. And so, they bought into RDOF just to get a placeholder, and they're off and running. The other two are, you've heard the term carpetbaggers. Well, one's a Minnesota carpetbagger and one comes out of Georgia. So, and we haven't met with them. One of them promised us to meet with them, but they haven't done it yet. And Frontier presents us a very unique problem, and we'll hear more about that later. The Redwood Valley Indian tribe, under no circumstances, want Frontier to do any more business with them in the valley.
Round
And
up.
so we may be taking some very radical action there. Not we, but helping the Redwood tribe do that, or the Round Valley tribe do that.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, I'll stop.
Much appreciated. So I'd like to acknowledge that Supervisor John Haschak has joined us, as well as Brent Blazer from Office of Emergency Service and Darcy Antle from the Executive Office, as well as Megan Barber Allende from the Community Foundation. So now we'll get back to the regular agenda, and the next item on the agenda would be the community partners. And if I am screen sharing properly, you should see the slide of the order. So Sheba Brown with Congressman Huffman's office would be next, followed by Taylor Morrison had indicated that she has a conflicting meeting, but will be sending a report. And Emily Tecchio is on the line, and then going down the line, Ted Williams, the Executive Office, School Superintendent. I neglected to reach out to our new interim Planning and Building Department, but we do again have Brent Blazer on the line. And so with that, I'll stop screen sharing and introduce Sheba, if I can find my cursor. Why is this happening? Sorry. Go ahead, Sheba. I will eventually find my cursor.
Okay, hi, this is Sheba Brown, Congressman Jared Huffman's office. I have a few updates here from our DC staff and a few other things that I was asked to look into. So a few things. FCC Acting Chairwoman Jessica Rosenworcel last week launched a broadband task force to improve data collection and mapping tools, which, as we all know in this meeting, have been long criticized for underreporting access gaps. And so it looks like there is progress in improving those maps and to kind of follow through on what was promised with the Broadband Data Act. And I know that we've talked about this legislation before. And in terms of the acting chairwoman, there is pressure. The president is facing pressure to promote her from her current position as acting FCC chairwoman to the actual FCC chairwoman. And if he does so, she will be the first woman to lead the FCC. She has a strong track record of advocating for broadband affordability, student access through the E-rate program, and in-home broadband connectivity. And she's generally, this would lead to a more consumer-focused FCC. We would hope. Also, the House Energy and Commerce Committee earlier this month advanced $7.6 billion in funding to expand internet connectivity for students and teachers without access, and as part of the budget reconciliation legislation. So that's all kind of going through the process, and I can probably get a more up-to-date more updated information on it, but I don't have anything more than that. So I was asked about the broadband benefit program and access for smaller providers. Do you still want information on that?
I think so. I mean, in time, because I think we need to encourage all of the providers in Mendocino County to sign up if they aren't already. And I think that it might not be so simple. So you and I offline can.
Okay, yeah, so but just to report out on that, our office did meet with some folks at the FCC to talk about that program and to talk about implementation and kind of share some things. So I do have some links and some information, and Jeff, we can talk about this offline.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, and I think those are all of the things that I have so far.